There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father.
Man, this stuff rocks.
This is Kaige of Riverghost, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, aka the Bod Father, and as always, I bring you guys and gals awesome interviews. And today it's an honor and a huge privilege to welcome vocalist Kaige Dvelle of the southern rock group Riverghost. Riverghost has released their debut single entitled Dark Horse. It's out now. Check it out, and I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed because we were talking about this just a little bit ago. It's got a lot of bluesy rock, southern traits that, man, brings back some old memories when you hear some good stuff like this. So, Kaige, man, how you doing? And welcome to the podcast.
I'm doing great, man. I'm really digging this show, and I dug into some of your stuff, and I love it. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Hey, it's Monday. Mondays are always bleh.
I won't even talk about my Monday. I'm here to talk about rock and roll.
So when this band was forming and finding its sound, what specifically did you want to add to this band to stand out more than the others per se, possibly in the past or even now?
Well, I think staying true to the things that we love, like the rooted things we love, because, as you kind of go through your career and you have multiple bands, you have a chance to poke out here and there and try this new style and that new style, and all of us come from somewhere. So I want to really dig back into the things that we came from. It wasn't just me. My fellow co-writer Boots Roberts is also from that sort of same background. He's a good old Texas boy and loves blues, rock and roll, and all that. And we grew up on that, like, Guns N' Roses, but other things like Metallica and piles of other things. So, just kind of getting back to like the things that we really like, the Allman Brothers and the Stones and, all of it.
So it's kind of like a big pile of ice cream with different flavors.
Yeah, it really is, man. And, when you start when you get it, you go through the writing process. At that point, we were just writing these songs. It was just the two of us. Mm-hmm. And of course, there was always intention of forming a band, but you don't really know who you're going to bring on. And we always wanted to make sure that we left all those lanes open for everybody else to drop their flavor into it, And so this is what we've come up with out of that, We're really proud of that.
Before we dive a little bit deeper on this, I want to ask you about that part, the writing process with everybody in this band. Did it flow pretty easily working on all this stuff? Because like I said, we're going to get into all this, but did it flow pretty simple?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a really great story about the very beginning. I mean, the very beginning. I put out an ad, met Boots Roberts, went to his place, sat down. We ran through a cover song just to kind of like warm things up and all that. Yeah. And then said, hey, what do you got? Oh, I got this. And literally that day we wrote, and it's not a song that you're going to hear right away, but you'll hear the next release. It's called Fruit on the Vine, and a song called Bluebird. And it was in an instant. And we were just like, we walked out of that room and both knew that we had met like our significant musical other. It was one of those things that you just like, I don't know if you get an opportunity to do that in most musicians' lives. I mean, we've both had our careers cooking along pretty well and hadn't run into it ourselves. So it's kind
of like the James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich ordeal with the recycler ad. Lars kept putting it in. James was like, screw it, I'll just go jam with this guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because Boots was about to leave Nashville. He had already been here playing in the Broadway circuit. If the folks don't know, it's kind of country and rock and roll cover band circuit, and he was playing as a session guy and all that. He was just like ready to kind of give up the ghost on actually putting an original band together, because it's sort of this taboo thing around here to try to slide one of those in, because Lord knows we aren't getting paid. And literally he was looking at ads to going back home to Texas, and this just spun his head around,
Oh wow, I would imagine. So what made Dark Horse the first track release from you guys? What stood out about that song that said, yeah, this has got to be it?
Well, I'll be honest, a lot of our songs it's one of those deals where like it's complicated, and I think it's really hard to say, oh, this is the best song or that's the best song, because everybody's got a different one and all that. We know, I think, what's good. What we were thinking at first was, we're going to put this out ourselves and really not going to have a whole lot of pushing at all. And so, what we understand about algorithms and that stuff these days, which I don't mean to bore you folks, but your best song probably shouldn't be your like absolute best one, because most people are going to kind of slide on by it. But the funny thing is that we couldn't pick like one that we thought was worse than the other. So I was like, let's pick one that just like does kind of rides that roller coaster, where it starts off with a nice little groove, builds up really nice, breaks down real cool, and pumps back up, and by the end you're just scorching.
How excited are you guys to release this first track, Dark Horse? And were you all a little nervous at first putting it out?
Yeah. In this town, there is literally it's impossible to make an impression. And we've been really fortunate, because when we came out as a live band first and sold out a show, strangely. And so the expectation was enormous. It was, enormous. So right timing, all that. And of course, as you know, we've gone through some things with the pandemic and all that. So it seemed like there was always like door opening, door closing, door opening, door closing. And so we were really nervous about it being just really right. And a lot of it to do with like how we could set up, especially as a new band, the touring that would accommodate any of this stuff, so building up so that we have, things cooking by summer.
So were these songs written prior to the pandemic, or were these written during the pandemic?
Yeah, during it. And I mean, I almost I joke a lot, but I always wanted to jokingly name a thing written on a rainy day, because it seemed like every time we went into the room and started writing, which was generally once or twice a week, it was pouring. The news was horrible. It was all this, and we were like writing these great songs and going like, well, I don't know, is this a good reflection of like what's going on around us? Because these things are just coming out, and it was like just kind of pouring out of us, and so it was a blessing and a curse all at the same time.
Man, it could have been the music gods saying, hey, no, you guys need to stay right here, this is me.
Yeah,
so there you go.
I could only hope so, but it feels good, and the songs, each one just kind of gets better and better, and of course bringing in other players and really kind of creating a family environment here is just, one, I think, difficult in and of itself, but two, catapult that and actually make the songs better as you go along. It's just like you said, it's another thing, kind of otherworldly,
Mm-hmm. How many songs are written right now?
I would say, there's a whole bunch of scratch stuff, upwards of 20 songs, but songs that are like fully put together, because we're cognitive of what live sets need. We really have kind of a 45 to an hour set. So, anywhere between, I should say about a dozen songs that are just like a good solid set if you need an hour's set, and then, trim here and there. But man, there's enough ideas in this little thing, and probably in full at this point to just like cook off a double album. It'd be a lot of fun.
Oh wow, that'd be awesome. Throwback to the double disc, man. You don't see them anymore. You don't.
Nobody wants to hear it now, but the idea behind releasing singles was just because we understand people's time and attention span to music these days, and we just want to just pop off and pop off and pop off. We want it to be like every time we do it's something exciting.
That was going to be my next question for you guys. With having so much material like that, Kaige, eventually are you guys going to just put out a full length? Are you going to do the double length, or what's on the plate so far?
Well, it's an interesting question because I think it's kind of where the industry takes you, right? I think we're up against a time where it's like, because we're self-funded at the moment and all this, it makes perfect sense to go in, do 3-4 songs at a time, release them, in the way that that makes sense to what we were just talking about. But, I think that, we love records, I mean, when I hear a band like Blackberry Smoke and I hear like a full album chock full of great, tunes, and it's a modern band or a Dirty Honey or a Rival Sons, I'm like, yeah, that's it. But, I think that even like Dirty Honey is a great example. Their first release essentially was like a 3 or 4 song this and that, and so they were doing it the same way, and it was probably for the same reasons, where you spend money where it's right, get a good producer, get the songs great, try to find a way to get proper PR, which is impossible. We were really fortunate, and so as far as that stuff's concerned, but really you start kind of reaching out there and you're a new band, it's not these, there aren't people necessarily just like opening up the doors and like, signing people to huge deals. It's just not a thing.
Yeah, those days of playing in a bar and hoping the record producer comes in are long gone, my friend. Those days are gone. And it's sad. And I'm just going to say this right now to everybody who's listening. They know I tell it like it is. It's really sad now that people never experience like me and you did when we were younger, going to the store, grocery store, or pharmacy, or anything like that to pick up a hit parade or Circus magazine or anything like that to read about your favorite band. That's gone now.
Yeah. A lot of it has to do with, and it's really technology. I mean, Let's face it. If everything shut down, internet was down, podcasts were gone, it wouldn't take very long before people were like, how do I do this? And fanzines would be back and, all that. I mean, we can see in our lifetime where that whole thing started, right? Napster, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's probably the only industry that hasn't recouped its ability to make money out of the situation, and generate things out of it, really. So it's not lucrative to anyone. I mean, all of us musicians, we have to pay the photographer, the sound guy, all these people, right? And they're demanding dough, right? And all that. But you walk into clubs, or you do any of these things like upload these songs to sites and stuff, and there's no one saying, especially on our end, it's basically like, if we were like, well, that's our new song, like $5 a spin, people would be like, have a nice day.
That's sadly, you're right. That is correct. Any tracks standing out more to you than any right now on this upcoming, whatever that you guys are going to do, man? Are there any songs that you could talk about right now that's already completed that stick out the most for you?
So right now we're back in the studio next month, so I guess it's not recorded, and I'm excited for that situation because it holds some great songs. But from the 2 that are left in the can at the moment, and again, this will just be perpetual anyway, so we'll be talking about this moving forward. But the great thing is that the 2 songs coming up, one's called Fruit on the Vine. It is just a 4 on the floor, kick you in the face, rock and roll thing. It just is about like driving fast, talking crap and, bad mouthing your government. It's just it's a nonsensical, good time rock and roll song. And we do that. And then the next one is definitely like this kind of more swampy, bluesy track that you probably don't hear much, these more, don't really hear much more these days. And it's a little more laid back, but then it builds up and there's just these killer drums rumbling. It's called End of the River, and it has a huge message and it's all these things, but that song is indicative of something that you want to pay attention to. You want to hear the lyrics, you want to hear what's going on, what the drummer's doing. There's multiple solos that are like overlapping each other, but they're in the background. It's not like, a Leonard Skinner thing where they're sharing things and all that, but there's just a thing to it. We kind of brought those dynamics into the song without I'm excited about that one because we brought those dynamics that you might get out of one of those like old Southern rock songs or like a Creedence Clearwater Revival song. But heavier, much heavier. I mean, I always say that underlying all of our material is kind of like a Guns N' Roses, like Ghost, just kind of walking us through these bits. But we sneak it up on you really good so that you're not realizing like, oh, dang, that's a solo forever. You're not dealing with any of that stuff, but while everything's going on, the more you listen to these, even I'm still listening to this song because, I have to shout out to my bandmates. I am elated to have the guys that are in this band. They're just monsters. This Nashville scene is filled with monsters. And there's one guy after the next. It's great. And I landed like the best of the greats. It's amazing.
It's so crazy now how Nashville is like the big music scene. You've got all these big heavy metal guys down there now. Plus you've got the country guys and gals. You've got everybody into one down in Nashville. Some part of Tennessee, at least someone's down there. And it blows my mind now because before it was just strictly country and Southern rock just about. And now it's everybody.
It is everybody. And, I had trepidation about coming down here because I'm born in Boston, raised in New York City, played in New York for a long time, LA for a long time, and back to New York. And coming down to a place like this, my vocal coach, funny enough, was like kind of the nail in the coffin in a way. A gentleman that you might know, his name's Tony Harnell. He sang for TNT. He moved down here and just loved it while I had several other friends. But I thought, like, if that guy who's like just a quintessential, I love California, I love New York, like, how could this be a horrible thing? And then, talking about the people that kind of cascade off of that, like you said, there's just like such a scene of, it's not so much rock and roll guys as it is metal guys, but that gives us a lane that's like, yes, because we ride that. Yeah, we ride that. I feel like most of those cats, they dig rock and roll. There's almost nothing they can say bad about it, so
out of these three tracks, Kaige, which one ended up sounding different than it was intended to? Which one of these songs took a major turn than what it was brought to the table than what it ended up sounding at the end?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a tough question because I think that we one thing about us is that we really go into the studio with like full intent. We demo stuff out, we iron bits out, and I would love to do that one day where we just kind of punch out a song and don't really like work it out, and then go in and see what happens with, working under the guides of a producer who's really taking the songs, but that would take somebody really special to just like pull that out of our hands in a way, but I think that because, long story short, you spend a lot of money, you gotta walk in that studio door and be like prepared like nobody's business, and you have to know what you're looking for and have those sounds dialed in and stuff like that. Now, each one of them, because you do have access to funner technology than you do in your jam space, have fun production things that you can do that you wouldn't otherwise do. I think if I was going to name one that might do that, it would be End of the River, the more kind of swampy blues song. Just wound up just getting bigger sounding than we thought it, it could get by, and now we play it live and we try to make it sound like that, and so we were at rehearsal the other day and blasted through it and got to the end and we're like, wow, how do we actually get this to sound like it does in the studio, because that's what it's all about. Audience wants to hear a song that sounds like, unless you're a jam band, and we are not a jam band, they want to hear the song that you did, and it's another advantage to just playing straight rock and roll. There's not all this production and there's not background keyboards and ding dongies and zip zappies and all this fun stuff in the background. It's just dudes up there rocking out.
What would you like to add to River Ghost's music that no one would never think that you would add to a song or to an album possibly? Is there anything out there that you guys want to add possibly to your repertoire music, I should say, your sound?
You mean instrumentally or
anything?
Yeah.
Anything.
I think that we dabble with the idea of having somebody who plays like B3, like Hammond, but bringing a piano keyboard thing, like really bringing in that sort of thing where somebody's playing live and just like tearing it up, but somehow keeping it. Sounds like a dichotomy of sorts, but keeps that energy sounding as rock and roll as it can, still ripping your face off, but having those kind of those old, B3 sounds in the background. That sounds like it might be a boring answer, except for it's kind of a natural, it almost seems like a natural progression for this, in a weird way, because it's just little bits here and there that get, a little touchdown, but really bringing that in, I think would be awesome if it ever happens. But it's just one of those things. It's sort of like a little dream, because you have to be able to hire a dude like that,
Now, I know each one of you guys have been part of other bands and stuff like that, but since this band's been together, what's the growth musically that you've seen from this band and each individual member working on all these songs so far?
Yeah, I think, I mentioned Boots Roberts. He came from Broadway, but also Justin Tolley, our bass player, he's also been kind of more of a country player and stuff like that in the Broadway scene. And he has just kind of like gone from really relying on, just that country line to being all in on the rock and roll. He still does his own thing, right? But bringing, I think we tapped into something that he always had in him, that rock and roll thing. And Isaac is our drummer. He's an amazing Venezuelan guy. He has just this wonderful, like soulful Latin vibe. And he somehow pulls that in like a ninja. It's sneaky, You're like, what did I just hear? Like, we listen to like his raw tracks in the studio and go like, because especially Justin and him playing like the basic tracks and stuff like that. He's gonna play along with them and lay down these things, and you just like, it reverses the time signatures and stuff. Like it reverses the beat and stays in the time signature, and it's outstanding. So. Yeah, it's amazing,
So what's your thoughts on touring and getting back out on the road with this group, man? What's your thoughts on all this, especially dealing with some of the pandemic still? What's your thoughts?
I mean, I understand everybody's nervousness about the pandemic, me included. And I've done everything I could to have avoided it. But wound up back almost a month ago getting really sick. But I think it's, although it's scary, I think it's a time that we need to, kind of bring people together again, and really kind of, if we can do it in a very safe way and all that fun stuff, I'm thrilled to do it. I mean, I've been lit up about playing. My favorite thing ever is to get on stage. And I don't think that you can really work out like all those really important, dynamics and bugs without, thinking about your live show and performing that way in a rehearsal. And so I'm really excited. We even kind of play our set a very certain way for dynamics to kind of emulate that whole idea behind the old albums are set up that way,
Mhm.
And so the dynamics of the show. And so I'm excited to bring that to people. That's kind of the long answer, but we're really excited to bring rock and roll back to people.
What do you hope everyone takes away while listening to this new single or River Ghost's music in general once everything gets out, man? What do you hope they get from all this?
The most cliche thing ever is that rock and roll is not dead.
Yeah.
And that, somebody can actually do something with it that lights your flame,
Yeah. And it really upsets me when people say that rock and roll is dead. No, it's not. It's like a ever revolving wheel, as I call it. It comes back around. It's not dead. It's there. It's just waiting to strike again. So it never
Yeah.
dies, folks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's saying that to a musician, although I've heard plenty of musicians say it, but saying that to somebody who's actively working in it, is just like,
It's heartbreaking.
yes, it's a sin.
Yeah.
It's a sin. It's a sin because I'm from the school of, and we all are, where we had the posters on the wall, like I said, the magazines, we went through every little thing, all that stuff. And it's a romance that, it's impossible to explain to anybody unless, and, not everybody gets the job that they love, or they, I went to school and became a dentist, like I didn't dream of teeth my whole career, so this is not that, this is like, when you do this whole thing, you're always in some fashion proving that what your choices are right, are your dream, and not about like worrying about how I'm going to make rent. All you worry about making rent, but it's more about the dream than it is any of that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's it.
Do you still have a go-to album or maybe a song that you find yourself gravitating back to and listening to from time to time, like maybe once a month, once, a week or something? Because I know there's a lot of stuff that I still can't kick out and I won't kick out. But what about you? Do you have that one specific album maybe?
I think, it's funny because I put it away for a long time, and I have some stuff that is not so rock and roll that I've gone back to. There's a band out of New Jersey called Hours that I really love, and their first record was incredible. But the thing that I go back to probably the most, and it happens kind of in pockets, but it's Appetite for Destruction. It's just this record that seems to be like you thought you learned everything from it, and then you realize you didn't, and that's my little dog in the background. But yeah, that's one of those records. It's like impossible to actually let get dust,
Yeah, that's for sure. And speaking of that, man, I've got my Slash shirt on today.
I love it.
No, you
I saw the Miles Kennedy interview you did, and I was just I love that guy, his voice. Oh my God.
I appreciate it.
So,
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, Miles is a good guy, and he's a phenomenal musician. I mean, he can play guitar too, like nobody's business. Everybody thinks he's just a vocalist. He can absolutely throw down on a guitar. So he's good too, all the way around. I actually put a thing up today on my Facebook page to all the Guns N' Roses fan. Do you prefer Use Your Illusion 1 or 2? Why? Which one and why?
Oh my God. I would have to like really think about that for a minute. I mean, almost track for track, because it's all, what a bold decision, no matter what, I mean, they were great, right? They did fantastic, so.
I wore my cassette tapes out of that, even including Appetite for Destruction. I wore my cassette tapes plumb out. I had 4 copies of Appetite for Destruction within a year and a half's time, dude, back in the day.
Yeah.
So when I got the CD, I just put it up and said, not playing it for a while. So what inspired you to start playing and making music, Kaige? What was that spark? Man, I want to try this.
Yeah. So I hopefully people hear this in my voice, but my dad kind of brought me up on like soul music, Little Richard, Stevie Wonder, you know, just like Otis Redding and all these things, you know. You know, to him it was like going back to oldies, you know. Yeah. So he used to have, you know, kind of a half-butt recording set up himself where he'd like play his records or his cassettes and then have a like record on the other side. And you know, because I was just a ham, would, you know, sing or dance or whatever it was, you know. I mean, I don't know what was going on in my head as a kid, but stick a mic in front of me and, you know, sing those songs. And, you know, it was wretched I talk about a cassette that I wore. I used to have this cassette of me singing these songs, but my dad passed and I had this cassette, you know, and I wore it out because it's terrible, but it was just amazing to hear like this little kid actually trying to nail something, you know? Yeah. And, that's the very beginning for me is that stuff, you know, Beatles and Stones and Zeppelin and, you know, Alice Cooper and all these things that my dad was just like really into, you know, and it was a segue to everything else.
So when you go back and you hear that stuff, do you cringe a little bit? Go, God, why did I do that? What was I doing?
Yeah, a little bit, you know, especially when I really started singing in bands and stuff, because I have friends that reach out, you know, actually after this recording and go like, wow, you still got it. That voice is, I remember that voice, that you still, and I'm thinking to myself like, oh my God, really? Like, I hope I've come a little further than that. But they think it's great and that's it. And that's all that matters. But, you know, I do cringe, and I almost, you know, once I leave the studio, besides having to run through things to kind of brush up on songs for, you know, the set, I can't listen to my own voice. I think a lot of singers probably feel that way and all that, but you know, it grates me, and you know, I'm just really grateful that other people don't feel that way about it.
Everybody, you want to get out and pick up Riverghost debut single entitled Dark Horse. Pick it up, give this band a fair shot. Trust me, this is a really good single, and I'm not saying it just because Kaige is on here. I've dug it for the past couple of days actually, and this is really good stuff. So if you like that bluesy, Black Crowes-esque, and I told them this before, Guns N' Roses-esque stuff like that sound and stuff, man, it's got some prizes in it. So please check it out. So Kaige, my friend, how can folks stay in touch with you all, buy this single, tour dates, all that good stuff with Riverghost? How can you do that, sir? Yeah. So riverghostrock.com's got a link to everything, all of our socials. We're on Instagram. We're kind of big on the Instagram business. So, you know, reaching out Riverghost Rock on Instagram, but also Facebook and all that stuff, you know, just the usual correspondence. And the great thing is that we're running it ourselves. So you be chatting with us. Before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for my show? I'd love to, man. This is Kaige of Riverghost, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour. Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please get out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link and our YouTube link, and please subscribe to that YouTube link because, folks, I need the subscribers. I need it badly. And please check out Riverghost. Pick up their debut single entitled Dark Horse. It's out now. You won't be disappointed. Trust me, this band is really good. So, Kaige, thank you so much for doing the interview today, man. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it, man. This is a great time.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.